Hey, how you guys doing? First of all, I want to say thank you so much for clicking on my presentation. I hope I can give you some value that either yourself or somebody in your life close to you can use later on. So first, if you guys don't know who I am, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Cody Myler. Some of you might know me as the Fit Keto Cowboy. I've been a keto coach since 2014. I am also the founder of NACA, the National Athletic Keto Association. We had our first bodybuilding competition last October. It was a great turnout. And it's really, it's not just for bodybuilding. It's also going to go into athletic performance, but it's really an organization to promote how keto can just go in other directions, not just weight loss and therapeutic medical reasonings as well. I'm also the founder or the host of the MF Fitness podcast. I own Next Rep Fitness in Dallas, Texas, a 24/7 gym that's 9,000 square foot, and all types train there. We have from the everyday people to professional athletes and celebrities. And I've had that gym since 2007. So we've been going along. Also, I own I Wanted Athletics. We make fitness gear, weightlifting belts, straps, wraps, all the different accessories that you'd use for lifting. And I also teach a mindset program that's called the I Want It Mindset. So that's another aspect of I Want It Athletics. I'm also an instructor for NESM, the National Association of Sports Medicine. So people that want to become a personal trainer can come to my facility, go through an 8-week program, and then afterwards have an internship to become a personal trainer and hopefully start their own business or move on and work with Next Rep or other gyms. So in a nutshell, that's who I am. My name is Cody Myler, and we're all here because unfortunately we couldn't be at KetoCon in Austin this year. You know, as we all know, because of COVID-19, we had to shut everything down. So we're here doing it virtual. That way you can watch it, and we want to give you guys as much content as possible that you can carry on. Every year we're learning more and more about keto and how it works, the effects of it, what it can do, the positives, the negatives, in every aspect. And so today I really want to focus more on the keto impact on sports performance. I know most people that come to KetoCon are really focused more on weight loss or, you know, more medical side of it. We've had lots of different people come in and start talking about the bodybuilding side. And, you know, as we've seen with my association, NACA, keto has really evolved in bodybuilding, but it's also evolving a lot more within sports performance. So not so much on the aesthetic side of everything, but actually how are you performing, and can keto be a great solution for you to utilize in your performance? So as we know, I just want to give you guys another reminder of what the standard keto diet looks like. You know, keto is short for ketosis, and ketosis is a metabolical state where your body has now converted from running off sugars and glucose to now transitioning off fats and ketones. You know, this is a great way to use for weight loss, appetite control, improved energy, lower your blood sugar levels, overall general health, cognitive performance, which is huge as an athlete, improved energy for an athlete. People use it for cancer. You guys may know Logan Sneed. He had a brain tumor, and he has been doing fantastic with using keto in his life, among other ones that have had tumors and cancer as well. Lowers your insulin, helps a lot of diabetics. Epilepsy was the kind of the origin of how keto was even started to help with epilepsy, different seizures, inflammation, which is another huge one for athletes, and other therapeutic outlets that keto is used all around the world. And we're learning every day more and more and more about this. So you might ask yourself, okay, I get keto, I see what it does, but what do you do? How do you get into ketosis? So in this chart, you see this is the standard keto macro breakdown. and we're looking at the macros of fats, carbs, and proteins. So what you are really shooting for, you're hitting a higher number of fats. So about 75% fats, right around 20% proteins, and 5% carbs. Now, is that the end-all be-all ratio? No, it's not. Everybody's genetic makeup and chemical makeup is totally different. It may sway 5% one way, 5% the other way, but this is a good general idea of what the standard keto macro breakdown looks like. Now, is this the breakdown that an athlete will use in sport performance? No, it's not. So I want to give you a kind of a background for me. So I am a former athlete, former college basketball player and semi-pro player and college coach. And so I have always been more about the performance over the aesthetics. And I would love to be an athlete in today's world right now. I wish I could go back and be a college athlete right now, because what our standard protocol was, I laugh about this now. You know, we would have team dinners at the local Italian restaurant right before our game. And we would just, load up on pasta and bread. I remember, oh man, it rocks my brain. I used to have a Coke, and they would put vanilla syrup in it. And it was amazing. Like, this is the type of stuff, you know, again, I graduated high school in 99, in college in 2000. And so the advancement of nutrition within sports really wasn't that, you know, we just thought carbs and protein. That's what you need. And you need to load up on carbs before the game or whatever activity that you're doing. And I really remember when I would do that, I felt horrible. I felt bloated. I would get sluggish, and it affected my game. But, you know, all our coaches are saying, this is what you need. You need fuel. You need carbs. So I started testing a little bit while I was a player, trying different things and still trying to stay in the idea of what they said, proteins and carbs. So I eventually got to the point where I really didn't eat much before the game, but I would have a peanut butter jelly sandwich, which ironically, Kevin Garnett, former NBA player, made very famous. He would always eat his peanut butter jelly sandwich before a game. And to me, that was heavy on carbs, got some sugar in there with the jelly, and got some protein in with the peanut butter. And that helped me. But now we've evolved 20 years later, and all the studies and different ways of how an athlete goes through a nutrition protocol and how these teams are doing it. It's amazing. And I'm so jealous of athletes right now, not only on the nutritional side of what they're eating, but even the advancements of just training and how functional movement and flexibility and mobility has just evolved over the years. And with that being said, what woke me up or kind of attracted me a little bit to keto, I saw people saying that they're eating this keto, or back then they even kind of call it more like Atkins, low carb type meal plan. And just looking at it without knowing anything about it, I was just like, oh, no, those foods, that's horrible. No, you're not going to do that. And so in 2014, LeBron James left Miami Heat to go play back in Cleveland. Well, in that process, he wanted to kind of change the way that he played. He wanted to change his role as a player, and he wanted to drop some weight. Now, it's crucial as an athlete, when you're dropping weight, you don't want to lose muscle mass. And by being a high carb eater, you put yourself in that position. When you start to lower calories, up your activity levels, you put yourself in jeopardy of losing lean muscle. And that's the last thing you want to do as an athlete, even as an everyday person. So there was a guy that approached LeBron James's trainer and said, hey, you should really try this out. This is a different type of eating. It's like this ketogenic meal plan. And I think you should really give it a shot because this is going to help him lose weight without losing the lean muscle mass. So in 2014, that summer, LeBron James went 67 days on this whole new meal plan. Now, if you looked at it, it isn't going to be the strict keto plan. There are a few things in there. He had some fruits and stuff that some people are, us diehard keto people that are just really strict. You're like, oh, no fruits at all. But, you got to understand there's a little difference in all these different types of ketos. And so for 67 days, he cut all sugars out. He only ate meats, pretty heavy on fish, vegetables, and fruits. That's all he ate. And then after he did that, after 67 days, that famous picture of him was posted on Instagram where everybody was like, oh my gosh, what happened to LeBron James? He's so skinny. You can go back and Google skinny LeBron, and it's crazy. And his buddy, Carmelo Anthony, also followed the same protocol. And that summer, it's the same thing. He posted a picture and he loses all this weight. So, okay, I see this. This is 2014. And I'm like, okay, this keto stuff is now going into sports. And that's what gets my heartbeat really going a little bit. So I said, okay, I'm going to dig in this a little bit more because obviously I'm missing the picture somewhere. So, as I said, I'm a former college coach, so I have access to some private forums and stuff. And actually, that trainer, Mike, LeBron James trainer, he was actually in that forum, and he was talking about all the foods and the type of way that he had LeBron eat and train. And I started diving in more and more in 2014. And once that I got that information from Mike, I started to ask more questions with other professionals, whether if they were in the medical industry, fitness industry, nutritionist. I just started digging because now I was like, there's something here. I don't know exactly what it is. Some of these people are eating just tons of fat, and I'm still trying to figure out the science behind it. So I really dug into the science, started learning, and I had to start first at the regular standard ketogenic macro breakdown, like I showed you in the prior slides. And I started reading all these books, and again, speaking to different doctors about how does this work and what's it doing in your body. And that's where the passion, honestly, of keto kind of came into my lifestyle in 2014. And I started doing it myself, and I kind of went on and off of it a little bit. And in this next slide, you'll see there I am now in 2018. There I'm sitting about 254 pounds. Now, during that time, about 2 years before that, I opened up a new gym, and I went from a 4,000 square foot facility to a 9,000. So my diet and workouts were not the top of the list at that time. I just wanted to stay open and keep my business going. So as you can see, I gained a little bit of weight there. The next picture was actually, that's very similar to where I am now, but that was really only about 6 months later. Once I said, okay, I'm getting right back on keto, doing everything right. And there it is. And I kind of implemented more of the sport performance structure of keto versus just the standard keto. But that's the outcome of just changing just a few things in your lifestyle. So let's talk about like the whole gist of why I want people to really give keto an opportunity in sport performance. Now, again, it may not be you, but maybe you have a son, a daughter, or somebody else that has one, and they're really heavy into athletics, and you want them to get that edge. There's been so many studies now in the last 10 years that are really going towards this route that I really think starting a kid that is probably in high school, going into this nutritional guidance, and then going into college with this, I mean, I really think this is a huge advantage to some of the younger athletes out there. So again, you may not be personally an athlete, but somebody else around you is. And I just, please get your notes out and try to remember some of this. And I really want other people to at least give this a shot. So when we talk about the impact, what keto can do for sport performance, I'm not talking about, hey, it can make you run faster. You're going to jump higher. You're going to sprint, you're going to jump farther, anything of that. I'm not talking about the actual function of the body. But what it does, it improves energy, which is huge. It improves your endurance. It preserves muscle. You have a faster recovery time, which is huge. You become a dual fuel athlete, which I'll talk about later on, and it reduces inflammation. Now, with all that being said, that helps you jump higher, run faster, be quicker. You know, also it helps with, I don't even have on there, with the cognitive part of it, of the performance, because the clearer you're thinking, especially in sports where you're having to move so fast and make a decision so quickly, that you want your brain to be the first thing that can trigger fast enough. And so all these help support you to be able to run faster, jump higher, all the mechanical parts that make up sports. And the recovery time, the faster that you can recover, the faster you can get back to training. And that is, for an athlete, that's huge, you know, or getting back to, you know, with some of these players that are playing back-to-back games all the time, you need faster and faster and faster recovery time. You know, one thing, if you just stripped everything down, just stripped all the macronutrients, all the science, if you just bear it all down, you're getting more bang for your buck within fats. Because when you strip it down and you just look at protein, you're getting 4 calories per gram of protein. You're getting 4 calories per gram of carbs, but you're getting 9 calories per gram of fats. So you're almost doubling your energy source when you just look at that simple part of it right there. Now there's a strategic way on how So when we look into keto, you might see these 3 different types of keto. We have the standard keto diet, which is great for the therapeutic reasons, for weight loss, dropping insulin. Then you have the targeted keto diet, which basically what targeted is people will intake about 20 to 40 grams of carbs before their activity, before their workout, to kind of help raise the insulin level just for a little bit to build muscle. But once you're fat adapted enough, you deplete through that really quick and you go right back into ketosis. And then you have the cyclical keto diet, which is the same idea as targeted. It's just the timing of where you bring the carbs in, 1 day a week or 2 times a week, depending on how well your body stays in ketosis. You're going to have anywhere between 200 to 400 grams of carbs just that one single day to get a huge glycogen load for a lot more muscle building. And so the targeted and the cyclical are a lot more geared towards building more muscle mass. If you're looking more in the sport performance, it's going to be almost a little bit more like the targeted keto diet, but still not exactly the traditional keto foods. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. What I want you guys also to understand, studies have shown for a keto athlete, it's better for certain sports than it is for others. And there's a reason for this. So you have aerobic workouts or activities and you have anaerobic. So aerobic is a physical activity that produces energy with the use of oxygen. Okay, so these are prolonged activities that are usually longer than about 3 minutes in time. I even think activities that can go at 20 minutes at a time, it's really, really critical that an athlete utilizes their fats. But those activities are like running, swimming, cycling, longer endurance activities that are prolonged by 3 minutes. And then you have your anaerobic activities. And these are physical activities that produce energy without the use of oxygen. So this is just jumping really fast, a quick sprint, doing a power clean, something like that that's just really fast. There's a lot of sprinters out there. Myself, even when we had to sprint out on the track for basketball, I noticed I held my breath because we're only going 100, 200 meters, and half the time I was holding my breath, so you had to learn how to breathe. But when it's these short-term activities, you don't even really need oxygen that much to pull the energy source, because you are pulling from your glycogen so much. And that's such a fast, quick source of energy. And unlike an aerobic activity that you're going longer than about 3 minutes, you never get to tap into your fat storage on an anaerobic exercise. So if you're thinking about, okay, what activities, what sports might this work for, it's probably going to lean towards an aerobic activity a little bit better than an anaerobic. I'm not saying that keto nutrition won't help or support or even just be the same as a Western diet for a power lifter or somebody that is a long jumper, something like that. But the studies are really showing a lot more for the aerobic endurance type athlete, that keto is by far a great way to utilize that nutrition plan. So like I said before, I teach for NASM, the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And I wanted to show you guys this chart. I have to teach this to my students, and it kind of kills me a little bit because I'm like, no, I'm a keto guy. But this is a glycogen loading schedule that NASM really recommends for athletes that are doing like a marathon, triathlon, some of these longer activities or longer sports. And so this is, you'll see over here in the chart, we've got 6 days out. In the middle, it shows the type of exercise intensity and duration that you need to hit for your training on those days. And then to the far right, you see the carb intake. So this is for years what we've been taught. And like I told you when I was an athlete, carbs, carbs, carbs. And so what you see right here, you see 6 days out. We won't even focus so much on the exercise intensity, since we are just focused on the nutrition. So we'll just go over here and look at the carb intake. And what you see, they wanted you to have 4 grams per kilogram of body weight of carbs, 6 days out. Same thing for the 4 to 5 days out, 4 grams per kilogram of body weight. And then they up it more to 2 to 3 days out, 10, and then 1 day out, 10. You just see the only difference is on the exercise, you rest. So that way you're not burning all that glycogen, all the carbs for energy. Now, there hasn't been a study done with this, but I personally, with some of my clients, have taken this same protocol, but I've just pretty much replaced carbs with fats and just kind of done the same thing. And we have had great results with some of my runners. Now, I don't do this with like the basketball players, football players, tennis players. This isn't the protocol that I would use, but the people that are running long marathons, half marathons, doing the triathlons, this is a protocol that I've actually taken and just scaled that to where we just replace the carbs with fats. And we have gotten some really good results with my athletes doing this. And now, is there a study behind that? No. I need to get some of our friends together and let's get a study and see what these athletes are doing. But, usually the proof is in the pudding when you actually apply it yourself and see how you feel. And my athletes have felt amazing doing this type of protocol. And it's just funny. This is what I have to teach my personal trainers. And so on a side note, during the class, I say, okay, guys, you need this to pass the test, but let me give you another view of looking how you might change the nutrition for some of your clients or some of your athletes. Okay, so I talked about studies in sport performance, and it's growing every day. There's more and more and more and more studies coming out, but I wanted to give you just a few of them here. One of them isn't really supporting keto as the nutritional plan for athletes, and the other two are, but there's some big differences and big red flags that you'll see as these studies start growing and start learning how ketosis really works for people. So let's look at the first one over here. This one, they weren't too positive with keto being your nutritional plan. It was found in the journal Sports Medicine and Physical Fitness. At St. Louis University, they took 16 males and females. They ran them under two different forms of an anaerobic test. And what they did is they had them eat 4 days of a low carb diet and 4 days of a high carb diet, the same amount of calories. Okay. They also tested using the strips. Now, what they found is the athletes had a 7% drop in peak power and a 6% drop in their mean power. Okay. So I think most people that are watching this presentation, I hope you already see the red flags in this. There's no way in the world an athlete is going to get fat adapted and get into ketosis of just eating keto for 4 days. And then you're flipping them back into a high carb day and then right back into a low carb day. That just doesn't happen. Okay. Also, the other part of it is the way they tested their ketones. They test them with just the urine strips. And that is not the optimal way. With urine strips, it can go two different ways. If you're dehydrated, it's going to show that you have a lot of ketones. It's going to turn to that darker purple red color. And if you're overhydrated or well hydrated, it's going to be a little bit lighter. So you don't really know if you're truly in ketosis with these strips. The best way is actually testing through blood. And so I don't think they gave justice on the testing for ketones. And at the same time, these athletes, there's a reason why they had a 7% drop in their peak power and a 6% drop in their mean power. They were going through the carb withdrawal, the keto flu. And I can't imagine, I mean, hey, going and you're going to test me for performance and I feel I got a headache and I'm just, that's going to be a horrible way to test athletes. But this study was done a long time ago. And to their, I guess, credit, they didn't know a whole lot about keto. They didn't really understand what was going on. So now we got this next one, and now we've gotten a little bit more advanced on how to test athletes with using a keto nutritional plan. So in the Journal of Metabolism, they took conditioned cyclists. And so for 1 week, they ate a healthy, traditional Western meal plan. And then for 4 weeks, they put them on keto. Now, 4 weeks is a lot better than 4 days. I would even argue sometimes that might be a little short of a period to be truly fat adapted and you're utilizing and to where you're actually carb sensitive. But, you know, that gives you a better testing grounds instead of just 4 days. They put them on a ergometer test. They check the VO2 max. Both test, whether if they ate a traditional or keto, their VO2 max was the same. The output was the same. But what they found is that they oxidized 3 times less glucose. And the keto meal plan, it increased the exhaustion time by 4 minutes, meaning that they could go 4 minutes longer. And so when you just think about that and think about what I said earlier, when you strip the macros down of 4 calories for carbs, 4 for protein, and 9 for fat, that actually makes a little bit of sense right there, that they were actually given 4 minutes longer in their performance because they have that stored energy, that fat. They're tapping into that. Okay. So then the next study, I like this one as well. It's in the Journal of Metabolism, and they took the 20 athletes, and they put these athletes on a low carb and a high carb diet. So they got these two groups of 20 athletes, and they put them on it for 20 months. Okay. 20 months, almost 2 years. Now that's a study right there. You're definitely, if you're a low carb person and eating high fats, you're going to be fat adapted at this point. What they did is they had each group before workouts take in a 340 calorie shake. One shake was a high fat, one shake was a high carb shake before the workout. What they found is the keto group used 2.3 times more fat for fuel. That's huge. 2.3 times more fat for fuel. And then what they found is that both use the same amount of carbs. Now that might sound kind of weird because you're not eating a lot of carbs as a keto athlete. Remember earlier I said that you become dual fueled. And this is honestly probably one of the most amazing advantages that keto can give you as an athlete. Because what happens is your body is producing ketones. You have this form of energy with ketones. It's giving you energy through the body. Also, it's giving you brain energy, the cognitive part of it. Your body is running off fats, and we have enough fats in our body that you can use that as energy. But even when you aren't taking in a lot of carbs, your body naturally produces glucose and glycogen. And that is where your body becomes a dual fueled athlete. So for instance, let's say you're running and you're just on a flat plane and you're running. You're, like, say you're 5-10 miles into it and you've been running. You have really only been tapping into your fat storage, which is awesome. You are running into that. That's the aerobic side of it. And you're going into the fat storage. And then all of a sudden, here's a hill. And you've got to sprint up this hill. You've got to kick it into gear, okay? Well, then that is where your body switches over from the fats real fast and pulls out of that glycogen and goes into that anaerobic storage. And boom, you got to sprint up that hill. It's only about 10, 20 seconds, and then it's over. And then now we're back on a flat plane, and we're going into our fat storage. A high carb athlete can't do that. They don't switch over from a fat burning fuel to a glycogen fuel back to a fat burning fuel. It just doesn't happen. And that is probably the mind blowing thing of being a ketogenic athlete. Now and I'll touch on this here in a little bit, but there are different ways depending on what that sport is, running versus basketball, where you're stop, go. So there's ways of manipulating the nutrition so that way your body can maximize both fat storage and glycogen storage for fuel. So there's some other studies out there. There's another one I really wanted to tell you guys about that was actually a good study. But what they didn't do is they didn't give the keto athlete the right micronutrients. And that is key as an athlete as well as a keto athlete, because you have to supplement correctly with the right electrolytes, the right type of minerals and vitamins, because when you are not taking in carbs, you're dropping your sodium, you're not holding on to water, all that good stuff. And I'll tap into that later. But that study was actually a pretty good one. I will probably cite that later for you guys if you guys want to go on one of my websites and see it. But I would have loved to have seen them actually give them the right electrolyte balance and everything to see how the keto athlete performed towards that. Okay, so like I said, we are seeing a lot more studies over the last 10 years, and now we're seeing a lot more professional organizations, sport organizations, going into that keto and maybe slash paleo meal plan. You guys might have noticed Smoothie King, they came out with the Keto Champ. Okay. Now, the reason why that happened, and I actually got to talk to some of the uppers with Smoothie King, is the owner of Smoothie King is actually the owner of the New Orleans Pelicans, the NBA team in New Orleans. And the NBA, all the nutritionists in the NBA are switching all their players to more of this keto paleo meal plan. And all the ingredients now, if you've gone into a Smoothie King in the last 6 months, they have changed their whole menu and the ingredients. All the ingredients have to be passed through the NBA now. And with those ingredients, that's what Smoothie King now is putting into their smoothies in their business. So it's crazy that you're seeing this shift all over. And now we're going into the sports side. The LA Lakers, they have a program. It's called Pro Nutrition. And it stands for Performance, Recovery, Orthogenesis. Okay. And ironically, who plays with LA? LeBron James. Okay. Now, they were doing this. Shanahan is their nutritionist, and he brought it in before LeBron got there. But I can almost guarantee you when LeBron got there, he was like, yes, everybody, we need to start doing this. So what Shanahan has done within their nutritional plan is they took the traditional governmental food pyramid, okay, and they flipped it upside down. Now, this picture that I have here, we just wanted to show you the pyramid, but as far as the ratio goes, it should go like this and then straight down, because what he has the athletes do is 50% fats, and then basically a 1-to-1 ratio, 25% protein and 25% carbs. Okay, so with that being said, that is not the traditional standard keto macro breakdown like I talked about earlier, where we were looking at 75% fats, 5% carbs, 20% protein. As an athlete, and when your activity level and your output is so high, you have more flexibility, and you can still stay in ketosis if you take in just a little bit more carbs. You have more flexibility. If you're not an athlete and your intensity isn't good enough, you don't have that flexibility as much. But they are burning through their glycogen. They are burning through glucose so fast and at a high rate, and they're fat adapted, that having a few more carbs, it's okay for these athletes to do that. And that's what I really want you to understand. You might say, well, hey, I'm going to try this out. Well, if you're not putting the input or the output, of the exertion that these type of athletes are, it's not going to work for you. And you have a potential of kicking yourself out of ketosis. So I really want you to understand that first. Another thing that I would say, if you are an athlete and you're seeing this presentation and you've heard other people say, hey, I'm an athlete and I'm keto as well, I personally would recommend don't start the keto plan in mid-season or, the start of the season or anything like that. Because the adjustment your body needs to transition from carbs to fats, that can be pretty taxing on you. Also, you need time. You need enough time to truly get fat adapted. So that way, when you do take in those carbs, you become a little bit more carb sensitive. So I know when I take in carbs, it's like, it's a total different sensation now. I mean, the energy, it's just like, it's a total different sensation versus when I was carb loading, when I was an athlete in college, I didn't have that same energy source. I didn't feel that at all. And so it takes time to become a well-adapted fat adapted athlete. So again, this is something you probably start in the off season. That's what LeBron James did. I said when he left Miami and went back to Cleveland during that summer, that 67 days, that's when he did it. And then he started implementing a few things, healthier grains, not many grains. He really uses more fructose and fruits for his energy source because it's such a quick burner. So again, we're seeing this developed in so many more professional organizations out there, and it's awesome. I love it. I love that we're seeing this. So some of the big names and people that have really studied this are Jeff Volek and Stephen Feeney. They came out with a book years ago called The Art and Science of the Low Carbohydrate Performance. And so what they found is the positive composition changes, which, you know, you see that whether if you're an athlete or not. I mean, when you start lowering the carbs, eating cleaner foods, your body is going to have a better composition. So they saw that. They also saw that spares the body of protein from oxidation. So that way you're not just losing protein and you're gaining protein synthesis throughout this whole process. Ketones are burned for energy. So you're having that other part that is just, you don't get when you're not in ketosis. You're getting these ketones for this energy source to be able to go into that next level of activity. And also the cognitive part of it. Like I said, it's very important as an athlete to be on top of your game. You know, if you're playing defense and if I'm guarding Jordan, if I'm guarding LeBron, trust me, I want to be at my peak performance. I want to know, oh, I got to turn left. I got to turn right. I got to stay in front of them. My mind is the first thing to say that. Okay. It's my mind. It's not my muscles that say that, it's my mind. So cognitive performance is huge with the ketones. Amino acids are elevated, and that's great for recovery. Leucine promotes muscle protein synthesis, just like insulin. So a lot of these bodybuilders, and I'll just kind of talk about this just a little bit, they really want to lean a little more on insulin to help promote muscle growth. Well, what's crazy is that when you go into a keto nutrition plan, you're developing so much more leucine that it takes the replacement of insulin, and it actually helps the muscle grow with protein synthesis. So in return, what you're doing is you're lowering your insulin levels. You're not going to hold on to fat. And then also, I'll just go ahead down here with the lack of insulin, the response allows for a higher testosterone and a higher human growth hormone ratio. And that is huge as an athlete, especially the human growth hormone part of it, because the human growth hormone, HGH, helps you recover faster. And that's what leucine. So when you are dropping your insulin levels, when you have a good low level of insulin in your body, those two things, the testosterone and the HGH, they raise. And you want that as an athlete. This is huge. You want that. And then also ketones are muscle sparing. Again, that goes back to the whole, when LeBron went keto and he wanted to lose weight, but not lose any muscle, any lean muscle mass, that's where the ketones come into play, and they're muscle sparing. You're not going, I mean, if you do lose muscle, it's a very slight versus if you went the other direction to lose weight. So it's a muscle sparing amino acid that is just awesome as an athlete to take advantage of. So the next thing is, so you might ask yourself, okay, I'm getting into this. I kind of like the idea. Maybe I'm going to give this a shot, but do I have to have a little extra body fat versus the next athlete that is not a keto athlete to use that fat as energy? And the answer is no. No, you don't. Even an athlete that's at 10% body fat, 10%, that is lean, okay? At 10% body fat can hold up to 2,000 kcals of muscle glycogen for energy, okay? They also can hold up to about 5,000 kcals of adipose fatty tissues for energy. So even as a very, very, very lean athlete, you have more than enough of glycogen storage and fat deposit tissues to use as energy. Plus, you're supported with the ketones as well. back to that reminder, there's 4 calories for protein, 4 for carbs, 9 for fats. You totally have enough. And that's, again, where you go into being that dual energy athlete as well. You tap into both the glycogen and into the ketones and fats. You almost are a triple energy athlete because you get the ketones as well. So yeah, do you need to be a couple percentage points higher in fat to become a good keto athlete? No, you don't. You can be lean and still get the same performance as the other athletes as well. So now you might ask, okay, how do I get there then? What does that look like? What does a keto athletic macro breakdown look like? So we want to compare. We have the standard one. Again, it's the 75, 20, and 5. Here is another view. When you go back and look at the one that Shanahan had his players with the Lakers, remember he was at 50% fats, 25% protein, 25% carbs. I feel as an athlete, once you've gotten into ketosis, you're fat adapted, this is a good starting spot. Still a little bit lower on the carbs, a little bit higher in the proteins. Remember, the Greek word, the root word for protein is primary, is first place. So even though, we're not making proteins over fats, but it is a primary macro that you need. And so I would go a little bit higher in your proteins at first, and then you have to play off of it. You have to adjust as you go, as you become a little bit more fat adapted. Maybe you do lower the protein a little bit and up the carbs just a hair. It all depends on what your activity is. If you're a marathon runner, then you might go more to 60% fats and a little bit lower on the carbs and higher on the proteins. Each one of them, whether if it's tennis, basketball, marathon running, doing those Spartan races, each one of those vary a little bit left to right on the carb and protein ratio. I would say your fats are pretty much always going to be within the 50 to 60% mark as a keto athlete, as a keto athlete. And that's really showing a lot of studies that are going on. That's really been the standard. The only thing that's varied is the ratio between the carbs and protein. And that is kind of determined by the activity again. It's determined on what if you're going for a long term of activity, like running a marathon where you're just nonstop, versus if you're a basketball player, you're probably going 3 minutes at the most before there's a foul, before there's a timeout. And within those 3 minutes, you're still stop, go, walk, sprint, jump, and so your body is constantly like pulling from different sources of energy. And that's why some of the athletes that do sports like that will have a little bit higher carb value, because they're going to pull into that glycogen in certain times. So you might be sprinting and then all of a sudden you're jumping, you need to exert some more energy. They're pulling from the carbs, the glycogen part of it. Also, it's really important what type of carbs. We aren't going to take in these complex, slow burning carbs. We aren't going to take in different wheats and grains and oatmeals and the slow burning ones. We want something that's really fast, available, and that's going to be something coming from fruit. So a lot of athletes have oranges at halftime. You also see some of these athletes, they have this kind of like goo pack that they take. I personally wouldn't recommend that, but some of them do take that. I personally would go more on the cleaner route and taking more of the fruits for that faster energy. But that's the whole point of why they do that, is to replenish that glycogen. So then you ask yourself, okay, well, let's just stay here. Let's stay at the 30% protein, 15 carbs, and 55% fats. Well, how do you even figure out, okay, how much protein is that? So what I do with the standard keto diet with my clients that are just wanting to lose weight, and get healthier, I pretty much take them at 0.8 grams of lean body weight. Okay. Now, this is really important, and I really want to encourage you guys. Don't just get your body fat tested by those handheld meters or the scale in your bathroom. Really invest, it's not that much. It's about $50 or so, and go get a DEXA scan, because that is really going to give you your true body fat. Because if you're going to break down what your macros look like, 1% is huge. So if we're saying that you're at 16% body fat, but in reality you're 15%, that 1%, and then you're adjusting how much protein you need and how much carbs and how much fat, that's huge. That makes a big difference in what your macro portfolio looks like. So I really encourage you, go get a DEXA scan, figure that out. Now, don't be surprised if you've been doing your body fat for the last year or so, and you're at, like, say, 16% body fat on your bathroom scale, and then you go get a DEXA scan and it says you're 21%. The reason why is because that DEXA is getting every bit of body fat. It's getting it in your cheeks. It's precise. And normally the DEXA scan is higher than your typical home scale. It's like an x-ray machine that's just going through your body, and it separates the muscle tissue and the fat tissue, and it reads that out. Okay. So again, for the standard person that's just trying to lose weight and be healthier, I put them at the 0.8 of lean muscle. So let's say they were 200 pounds, they have 175 pounds of lean muscle. I take that times 0.8, and that gives me my protein grams that they need to hit every day. So with an athlete, we up that a little bit more. We go to a 1.0 to a 1.2 grams of lean body weight. And the reason why we up the protein for athletes is because they're so active. They're moving so much. They're burning calories at such a high rate. We don't want to lose any muscle mass. Even though as a keto athlete, we still have ketones that are muscle sparing. It's always good to have a supporting cast with that and helping ketones along. So you still need that building block of protein, and you need to up that just a little bit more for the athletes to become optimal, to get the most out of a ketogenic plan. So there's things that we really need to look at and focus on. Everything works in correlation. Everything has to be balanced. And the first thing, utilizing the athletic macros. So just like I talked about, the different ways of the percentages and finding that. Again, that only works if you're that type of athlete that's putting an output that's really, really high. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh, well, I want to try that macro, and you've never even done keto, or you've been doing keto for a little bit, but not that your activity level isn't that high, it's not going to work for you. And I want to really emphasize that this is strictly for the athletes. Another one. Now this is a, I don't know, sometimes a touchy topic within the keto community, but exogenous ketones. I am okay with exogenous ketones for athletes. I feel it's great. It's a great tool to utilize. If you're someone that's trying to get in ketosis and doing it for health reasons, I don't lean on that. Maybe you take a little bit to start those first 2 or 3 days to help buffer and not get into that keto flu and feel bad, but you don't want to rely on them, because that can, even though ketones are in your bloodstream, you're not truly in ketosis. And so I would like to see your body actually produce ketones on its own. Now, the reason why I say I like it for an athlete is because once they are in that activity, they are burning those ketones at a high rate. And so it's okay for these athletes to take in some exogenous ketones before and during the activity, so that way they have that to spare and they're not burning so much of it. Some of you guys may test yourself. You might test before you're testing your ketones before activity, and then after the activity, after your workout at the gym or whatever. And you might notice that your ketones have dropped big time. And it's because you burn them. You burn them as a source. And then you might test 3 hours later and they rose, and now in some cases, especially if you're doing more of like long endurance type stuff, your ketones might even spike after activity. But I personally am not against using exogenous ketones for athletes. I think they are a great tool to use. Totally optional, but I say go for it if you're an athlete. If you're just somebody just trying to do this for aesthetic reasons and therapeutic medical reasons, maybe try to start having your body produce them on their own first, and then go from there. As an athlete, again, we're going to increase protein just a little bit more, just because, we do want to support the muscle, the lean muscle that we have, and not lose any. The accurate fuel timing, again, that's another thing. So when I say LeBron takes fruit, I had a client one time. I said, okay, well, here's the fruits that you can have. You can have raspberries, blueberries, a lot of the berries on a keto diet. So she's like, okay. So she started making these smoothies in the morning time. And I noticed for like a couple of weeks, her weight just kind of stalled. And I remember she was on the rowing machine. I said, okay, walk me through. What are you doing every day? Because something's not working right here. And she told me, well, I have this smoothie. I said, okay, what is it? She goes, well, I put a cup of blueberries in it. I put 8 strawberries in it. I do. And I was like, whoa, wait. No. And she goes, well, you said I could have those. I said, well, yes, you can have them. But even just over 6 strawberries, I mean, that's a high part of carbs right there. And so that's going to kick you out of ketosis. And then also you're having that first thing in the morning, and we can go into a whole rabbit hole about intermittent fasting and how that could even be supported with a keto athlete, but that's for another time. But, once we started scaling her fruits down a little bit, she was staying in ketosis, and then she started dropping her weight big time. For an athlete, you're going to take those fruits and you're going to have them before your game, before practice, whatever it is, your activity. And then you're going to have some during, because you want that quick energy when you need it, when you get into that aerobic part of the game and activity. So the timing of when to take the carbs is really crucial as an athlete. Again, you become really carb sensitive. So you really feel that burst of energy when you use those carbs correctly. Again, back to where I said the proper use of carbs and fats, and then proper water intake. Water intake is huge, guys. Water intake is huge. It's important because if you're dehydrated, you can decrease your strength by 2%. You can decrease your power by 3%, and your high intensity endurance can decrease by 10%. You don't want that. You don't want any decrease in any of that as an athlete. Okay. And, remember, your body is 60% water. It is huge. So here's a protocol that we use with the athletes on water intake. So before a game, before practice, we want to weigh. This is a key. You want to weigh yourself before. And you're going to have 14 to 22 ounces of water 2 hours before practice, before a game. And then while you're in the middle of practice, while you're in the middle of the game, saying that practice is just as intense as the game, about every 15 to 20 minutes, you want to have 6 to 12 ounces of water. And now after the game is over, you're going to take in 16 to 24 ounces of water for every pound of body mass you lost during that activity. That's why it's important to weigh before. Okay. So if you just don't weigh yourself and then you just, load up on water, you don't know really how much you need. So for you, it's crazy, especially when you're playing a game, you can lose like 5 pounds of water weight in a game. So you want to replenish 16 to 24 ounces per pound that you've lost after the game. Okay. That is a huge key to take away from this, because water is, again, if you're dehydrated, you lose performance, you lose power, and your endurance goes down. So again, water, water, water. The other thing is proper electrolyte balance. As a keto athlete, like I said before, we drop our sodium levels. An electrolyte is sodium, potassium, magnesium. And so we really need to make sure that we have all those at a high level. We're intaking with possible bone broth. We're taking in the good, right salts, not the bad salt, the good, clean sea salts, that type of stuff. And that with your magnesium, you might have to supplement with that a little bit. But potassium, you can get through your avocados. So just really make sure that you have proper electrolyte balance. And that was one thing when I said earlier about that one study, they didn't give those athletes a good electrolyte balance, and they struggled a little bit. They probably didn't even have the right water balance as well. So they kind of struggled a little bit in that study. So that's my presentation. That's everything, that kind of in a nutshell. I didn't want to get too technical and too scientific with you. I want to make it relatable, because I want this to get out there. I want other people to utilize keto as a plan for their sports activities. So I wanted to make this kind of relatable, so that way you can speak onto this to somebody else down the road. I hope that you guys really enjoyed this presentation, learned something from it, took notes. And if you have questions and you want to get a little bit more technical and find a little bit more on the science, and trust me, I can go down that rabbit hole a lot. There's my handles right there. I'm found all over: the Fit Keto Cowboy, Myler Flex, Next Rep Fitness, all that stuff. So there's how you can find me, and I will be more than happy to answer all your questions about keto, and then about how you can apply keto to your athletes. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to me, little old Cody Myler. And until then, keep repping and flexing, and have a great day.